for joining me again. My name is Carlos. Today we'll be getting into a chest, ab, and calf session. Before we do, please hit that subscribe button, post notifications, leave a comment, and all that good stuff. So, today, it was kind of like an intermediate light day. What are you going to say about a day-to-day activity where everything is kind of repetitive, but nonetheless there are subtle and important changes in a journey that will ultimately take you to your dream or to your goal? Say there's 1,000 different, you train 1,000 times, there's 1,000 training sessions. They're all very similar, and yet at the end you have the physique that you want. And how do you go about explaining each and every differential on that journey? Well, there are differences, there are attainments, there are PRs, and some training sessions might seem the same, but they're all extremely important. You can't leave one out for the success to be won. If you're a pilot, you need 3,000 hours, 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours, whatever it is. You need them all. Each and every one of those hours is important for your ultimate goal. The same thing with bodybuilding, the same thing with physique. Each and every training session is highly, exceedingly important. So, what was the importance in today's session? Out of the 4 or 5 different exercises that were performed today, there was one with an increase in its parameter, which is the bench press. So I've been increasing very slowly on the volume, on the weight, and I am at the level of 225, 245 pounds for 5 reps. But I've been keeping it to only one set at that weight. But today, I managed to get 2 sets. And it felt kind of challenging on both sets on the last rep. Now, I've done higher reps with this weight, but it's not always a linear progression. So it was a bit of a challenge to get that second set, but I got it. Significant amount of work. I doubled the amount of work with that particular exercise. Now, my next goal, perhaps, I don't know, I have to play it by intuition on every session because I have to be very careful of injury, of re-injuring my pectoral muscle. So, next session may or may not be one more set, or it may or may not be one more rep to get those 2 sets up to 6 or 7 reps. And as we slowly increase the parameters on that particular exercise. The abdominal training for today increased the set volume by a little bit and increased the rep range. On the extreme incline sit-up, I was doing 20 reps on the first set and 15 on the second. Today was 25 and 20. And it felt easier. I was really getting into the contraction, trying to bring the crunch, because the abdominal muscle, the function is to shorten the torso, to bring the chest to the pelvis or the pelvis to the chest. So these half rep things, these schemes where I see people on the floor doing these crunches where they just barely move their neck, it's not performing the movement. The movement is to crunch it out completely, is to shorten the torso. So this is what we do with the steep incline. It's not always available because I put a little stool underneath and sometimes they're using it. But today it was available, so I increased the incline to the max. The only way you can increase it is to hang upside down, and that would be great also. That was, the more resistance you put on the abdominal muscles, the more they will grow. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to get a big waist, because that's absurd. Many people have this idea that by putting weight on the abdominals, they're going to get these huge blocky midsections. That would be very rare. That would be the case if you're fat, if you're overweight, and overdevelop your abdominal muscles, say like a power lifter where you get this big power belly plus all these abs. But I don't think that's what you guys and girls are doing. I mean, most of you are disciplined with your food. You're not into powerlifting or strongman, or I don't think you would be following me particularly, because that's not what I'm doing. So you shouldn't have a concern for really targeting the abdominal muscles with a lot of activity, with a lot of overload and all of this. The only thing that will produce for you is benefit. I mean, you will get a more pronounced six-pack, basically. And once you lean down, it will be very visible. So try to incline it, inclined, increase the reps on that. And the hanging abdominals, this is an incredible exercise. It's always worked for me. It's the one that I never had abs, never. And it was the one that initially brought this a little bit of the line out into the outside, and the oblique and everything started coming in with that particular movement. And I stuck with it for several months, and it worked. I mean, the hanging abdominals really work. I get a burn out of those. I mean, when I get to 15 reps, I really want to stop. It's like enough. And I push myself to do 5 more. And, maybe, through a torture session, I could push myself to do 5 more. So 20 reps is pretty high for 2 sets. When I used to do them in the park, I would do 5 sets of 12. And that's fine. So resting a bit between these sets. I don't do a cardio circuit where you're just blasting set after set. You want to maximize the effectiveness of each set. And for that, the muscle at a cellular level, not the oxygen recuperation where you continue to do the activity, but the maximum output of your muscle takes at least 2.5 to 3 minutes to recharge. It's not a fast charge. It is sort of a fast charge, but it requires at least 3 minutes. There's cellular activity at the level of the mitochondria, which is not uploaded immediately. It takes a few seconds. It takes a few minutes. And you want to take advantage of the full load of the mitochondria to be able to produce maximum force, thus enabling you to take the set into the farthest extension it can go and maximizing your gains. So these 2 exercises in combo are great. Hanging for the lower, although you work the entire ab, because you can't really isolate one part of the, you can bias it, absolutely, and stress certain parts, but generally the entire pelvic cavity will be working to contract into the torso, and vice versa with the incline sit-up. And from there, did 2 sets of plank. I don't know what to call these because I don't think they really have a proper name. They work the intercostal muscles and the serratus muscles, and also the abdominals. So it's a plank where you crunch and flex your torso with, I've been explaining this in the last few videos, with your shoulders. You don't move, you don't try to push. You're not doing push-ups. You're not even doing push-ups with your elbows. You're just contracting. You're doing like this thing, right? And it really brings these out and also stresses the abdominal muscle. So this particular exercise, this intercostal serratus contraction of the scapula, in conjunction with the 2 other monster ab moves, which is the hanging and incline crunch, seems to be a really effective circuit. These 3 exercises for 2 sets on each movement seems to be fine for making slight gains. And if you really want to bomb them, if you really want to do a heavy session, do at least 3 to 5. I mean, 5 would be extreme. You'll have a sore, ab, real painful cramps perhaps, on the next day. 5 sets of 3 exercises by 20, 25 reps is a considerable amount of volume. And that's probably what you would want to do if you really want to bring out your midsection, you want to bring out your abs. So from there, went to the calves. Now the calves, we're trying to bring them up, obviously. We want to pronounce them. Mine are highly defined, yet they don't have like that bubbly, big, large ass, like, whoa, what are those calves? No, but I want them to get that way. So the only way that is ever going to happen is by not neglecting the frequency. You have to make sure that you are always training them. You have no excuse, if you don't get, these calves that you want, if you're not training them, or you're just training them like once a week and so on. So, the guys that have had mediocre calves and have brought them up to spectacular proportions, they all say, I train them, at least 3 times a week. Some guys even go extreme and train them like every day. I don't think that's really called for, although that could be a benefit for some people. It's called occupational hypertrophy. In other words, your job requires you to use a muscle consistently on a daily basis, and that muscle will not atrophy, but actually just develop into monster proportions, because that's the muscle you use for your work. Say you're a blacksmith using your right hand, and boom, you grip this 25-pound, hammer, and you're using it every day. You can be pretty sure you're a swordsman of antiquity, and you had to use this, this sword every day. things that you practice with every single day will generally develop more. Now, it takes quite a bit of dedication and obsession to do that. If you want to keep it normal and yet be sure that you will be progressing, twice a week is sufficient as long as you hit it with the proper amount of exercise, getting a great contraction, holding it for a second. Don't go all the way down trying to stretch that thing all the way. You're going to pop your Achilles tendon. You want to keep the tension on the muscle because you can transfer tension onto the tendon, and that's very dangerous. So be careful not to get, extreme with the stretch. Just go a little bit below and, keep it there, and go extreme with the contraction. Like when you go up to the top, just flex that thing. Bring out the muscle. If you can work with the mirror, that's even better, because with the mirror, you can objectivize. You're not the subject. If you don't come doing calves, you're watching the other guy, which is you, in the mirror, do the flexing. You go, okay, you can flex it a little harder, bring it out like that. And then, it's easier to control. It's like a video game or programming. You're doing something from here to there. You're going to objectivize it a lot better. Okay, now from there we already went through the bench press. Now we're incorporating an isolation move that I've never used before. I very rarely ever do cable crossovers anyways, but it was strongly suggested to me that it would be beneficial for me because my delts overpower my pecs. In fact, my pecs are practically non-existent compared to, true bodybuilding proportions of pecs, that I do the underhand cable crossover. And I've done this for the last 3 sessions. I'm starting to get more pumps while I'm doing it. It was fatiguing in this last session. I think I did 3 sets of 12 with very moderate weight. I mean, this is not something you pile in and put 6-10 pins on the pin load and no, because there is stress on the elbow tendon and other areas. So what you want to do is just dial in the form, basically, just really, really dial in that form. And so that's been working, and I highly recommend it if your chest needs to be brought up. That with the massive compound move, try to bring up your bench press, increase the weight. I know some people say the bench press is not really the best hypertrophy exercise for the pectoral muscles, blah, blah, blah. But you can't ignore the fact that everybody has really large upper bodies, with massive chests, can do a lot of weight on the bench press. So it's, besides, bench pressing is great, so don't ignore it. And bring this into the game also, the lower crossover. From there, we went to the triceps cable extension, which I've been trying to hit PRs with, really trying to get strong with that. Last week I did 110 pounds. Today it was a challenge to do 80. Like I said, it's not always linear, so my strength kind of diminished, although it was after doing the bench press and other exercises, so I might, be excused for not having max strength on that particular exercise. Yet the whole game has been brought up because I was training between 40 and 60, and now it's between 70 and 100. Like, the parameters have changed, the reps have dropped, but that's the way it has to be. You have to drop reps if you're going to increase your intensity, and then you build it up slowly. Just did a few sets of that, 2 sets I think, and from there did maintenance on the biceps. Nothing spectacular. If I want to increase my biceps and really target them, I will do pyramids, going heavy with the isolation, like 1 arm preacher, even if it's like 2-3 reps on, with a 50. You're going to go for 55s and 60s on the next time, and just really try to focus and do high reps on the pyramid down. Like you lower the weight after you do your max, you prime your CNS, you got all that strength going for a couple of reps with a really heavy dumbbell. Try to keep it as strict as possible, and then you drop it down like half the weight, and then rep out, do pause, wait for 15 seconds, do some more until your arms are like, That's how you increase and bias certain, muscles. You just throw a lot of volume at it at a certain session. You don't do that all the time. So this was at the very end of the routine. So it was like a maintenance. So you got like these 5 things going, like, right? One of them increases, one of them stays maintenance. You don't want any to go below. You want them all to at least stay here and have, some push on something that day. Like something was of note, something increased. You improved somewhere, somehow. And so every session kind of builds on the one before. And that's why you have to keep at this week after week, session after session, month after month, year after year. If you want to be a professional or you want to reach the top of your hobby as an amateur, you want excellence in what you do, you really can't take time off. Like, you can take a week off here and there, and I'm talking about a week off every 3 to 4 or 5 months. But if you're taking a week off every month, I don't think, that's really going to set you back. It's not going to, it's going to, because there's so many steps you have to take to improve. When you get there, you realize, oh my God, yeah, I remember I took like 3 months to increase from here to here, and had I taken some time off, it's like, when would I have done that? And it's like, it would never happen, right? So people who reach the top understand that it is so important to stay on point. That's why they get there, is because they never stop pushing, and that's how it works, guys. This is just one of the hard things to do is bodybuilding. You're talking about physical stress and taking it to the maximum on many occasions. You can't really conceive of anything harder. Like, what would be, harder than, try to build your body with, increasing weights. So anyways, got to get that out there, reality check. But you don't want to kill yourself on each and every session. You don't want to use all your power, all your time. So, recuperation. If you feel tired, if you feel that you cannot make gains that day, don't go. Like, you can take days off here and there. Don't take weeks off. You train for 2 days, you're sore. I mean, you did a really heavy session. You know that if the thought of going into the gym and say you should be doing like 400 or 500 pounds on the squat somehow, and you say, there's just no way, I don't have it in me today. Well, don't. Don't go. If you've been training for a few days straight, stop. Take a day or two off. It really, your recuperation, your strength is in your rest. Once you're rested, you're just biting it, you're chomping at the bit to go to the gym, that's when you should go, So the discipline of, like, maybe at the start, if you're not on a high intensity routine, like building it up to the max, you can go very frequently and build up your volume. But once you get into the heavy weights, you got to be careful. Got to be very careful to make sure you're ready for training that day, unless you're programmed for a light day. Anyways, that's it for today. God bless everybody. We'll talk the next time. Let's go.